Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on a creature that's so tiny you'd probably never even notice it. But its impact, well, that's becoming impossible to ignore. We are talking about the Phlebotomus sandfly, and we're about to explore how our warming planet is turning this minuscule insect into a very real and growing global health threat. Right? So this isn't just a story about some bug. It's really about how our changing world, specifically our climate, is basically rolling out the welcome mat for this insect, letting it push its way out of the tropics and into places where it's never been a problem before. So let's kick things off with our first section, a tiny expanding threat. We're going to track how this insect is making the journey from its traditional tropical home, potentially right into our own backyards. Okay, so who exactly is this uninvited guest? It's time to meet the Phlebotomus sandfly. We're going to break down the anatomy of a disease vector. So you've probably heard them called sandflies, right? But their proper scientific name is Phlebotomus. Now, think of them as the #1 taxi service for a really nasty little passenger, a parasite called Leishmania. And that name, Leishmania, is the one to remember. It's the real villain of our story today. And you know, what's really fascinating is the name itself, phlebotomus. It actually comes from two Greek words, phlebo, which means vein, and tomos, which means to cut. So its name literally translates to vein cutter. Kind of tells you everything you need to know about its favorite meal, doesn't it? So where do these guys fit in the grand scheme of things? Well, they're animals, they're arthropods, specifically insects, and they belong to the order Diptera, which makes them true flies. So yeah, they're distant cousins to the common housefly or the mosquito. And understanding this family tree, it's absolutely crucial for scientists who are trying to figure out their biology and, how to control them. Okay, this is super important to get straight. There are two key players in this drama. First, you've got the sandfly itself. It's a multicellular animal, a metazoan. It's what we call an ectoparasite, meaning it feeds on the outside of its host. But the real damage? That's done by its passenger, the Leishmania parasite. This little thing is a single-celled protozoan, an endoparasite, which means it has to live inside the host's cells to survive. The sandfly is really just the delivery system. And that brings us to our next section, a parasite's perfect weapon and its deadly delivery. And this is where things get, well, fascinating in a slightly horrifying kind of way. See, the parasite doesn't just hitch a ride. Oh no, it straight up hijacks the fly's body to make sure it gets to its next destination. So check this out. It's called the blocked fly hypothesis. First, the Leishmania parasites create a gel that literally plugs up the sandfly's gut. As if that's not enough, their enzymes then go and destroy a tiny valve that would normally stop the fly from, well, throwing up. So now the fly is blocked up and starving. The only way it can get a blood meal is to forcefully regurgitate that parasite-filled plug right into the bite wand. It's an absolutely devious biological trick that guarantees a massive dose of the parasite gets transmitted. But the parasite has an accomplice here, the sandfly's saliva. It is a wild chemical cocktail designed to disarm you. It's packed with compounds that suppress your immune system, right at the site of the bite. It basically tells your body's first responders to just stand down. This whole process essentially rolls out the red carpet for the parasite, switching your immune system from kill mode to, hey, welcome mode. All right, Section 4, the new European frontier. For decades, this was seen as a problem for the tropics and subtropics, but that's changing. Fast. This threat is on the move. And the main driver here? No surprise, it's climate change. As average temperatures creep up, the environmental conditions that sandflies need to survive and reproduce are popping up in new parts of the world, especially across Central and Northern Europe. Places that were once way too cold for them are now becoming pretty comfortable new homes. And look, this isn't some far-off, distant possibility. Climate models are projecting that by the year 2050, and that's just a little over 2 decades from now, phlebotomous sandflies could establish permanent breeding populations in countries like the Netherlands. Let's just use the Netherlands as a case study for a second. Projections suggest the flies will probably arrive from over the German border, finding the habitats in the south and central eastern parts of the country most appealing. But here's the other huge risk factor. The thousands of dogs imported every year from Mediterranean countries where Leishmania is already widespread. So if the sandflies arrive, the parasite is already there, waiting in these animal reservoirs, just ready to kick off a local transmission cycle. So with all that said, how do we fight back? In Section 5, let's take a look at diagnosis, treatment, and, of course, prevention. Okay, so diagnosing leishmaniasis involves a few key lab methods. The old school way is microscopy, literally putting a tissue sample under a microscope and looking for the parasite. More modern methods include PCR tests, which are incredibly sensitive at finding the parasite's DNA, and serology, which doesn't look for the bug itself, but for the antibodies your body makes to fight it. Now, when it comes to treatment, the approach really depends on where you are in the world. The World Health Organization has these broad guidelines for regions where the disease is super common. But in a country like the Netherlands, the focus is totally different. For now, their national guidelines are all about treating individual travelers who might bring the infection back home from a trip abroad. Prevention is really a mix of personal responsibility and public health action. On your end, it means things like using insect repellent and wearing long sleeves, especially around dusk and dawn when sandflies are most active. But it also means bigger picture strategies, like programs to control sandfly populations. And this is crucial, a One Health approach, which means monitoring both animal and human populations to catch any outbreaks really early. Finally, let's look ahead. How can we forecast the future? What is science actually doing to predict the sandfly's next move and help all of us prepare for it? Well, a major effort on this front is the EU-funded Climos project. It's a really fantastic initiative that's combining climate data, soil moisture levels, and biological modeling to create an early warning system. The whole goal is to predict where and when sandflies are going to show up next, which gives public health officials a massive head start. And all of this leaves us with a really critical question. The sandfly is just one example of a climate-driven health threat. It's a powerful reminder that the ecological changes happening all around us have direct, real-world consequences for our health. Preparing for that future isn't just about reacting. It has to be about predicting, monitoring, and adapting. We put this whole explainer together using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive deeper into the science and actually read the original research for yourself, we've put a complete list of all the sources into a Notebook LM document, and that's linked for you in the description. And that's our look at the Phlebotomus sandfly. If you found this explainer valuable, please do subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think in the comments below. We really hope this gave you a clearer understanding of this emerging threat. Thanks so much for joining us.